Really early nade. You know, is the fight going to happen in the next 10 seconds? Yes.
Yes.
Was your nade going to get an elimination that prevented that engagement from happening? No. Good nade question mark? Answer also no. Hello.
Discord's so loud. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Having a good week so far?
Yeah.
All right, so how many people were you playing with during this VOD?
I want to say we had a 6-stack.
Nice. Are these like regular people that you play with, or randoms?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's regular people. Crispy, Triage, and Iconic. Actually, yeah. Okay, so all of them except our Lucio we're all gonna be playing on a team together in the next season for the community we're in.
Nice. So this isn't scrims, this is ranked, but you're playing together?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. All right. And what SR is this?
Plat. It's I think it was either 26 or 2700 for the lobby at this point.
Awesome.
This was the beginning of the night before we went on a glorious losing streak.
Oh, no.
And what are you going to be, do you want more kind of the coaching to be focused around like the team and how you can work together, or you individually? I know that your normal duo partner couldn't make it today. They're getting the vaccine, but
yeah.
what are you primarily looking for out of this VOD?
If we could look mostly at, I guess, the tanks and me, that would be ideal. Because we know that for sure is still going to be set. And then I don't know if Mountain's going to be playing DPS or tank.
Awesome.
But for sure, Crispy and Triage are going to be main tanking and off tanking, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm the Ana bot. So
the Ana bot?
Yeah.
No flex. Only Ana.
Tell them I'm always going to pick Ana unless you tell me otherwise, or if a DPS goes Pharah, then I'll swap Mercy. But 9 times out of 10, I'm playing Ana because.
Awesome. So we'll focus on the Triage and Crispy playing together, and how you should position around them. Is there a specific person who's going to be shot calling for your team at all?
Yeah. So for the most part, Crispy does shot calling, and then I try to do the ult checks, and then our DPS, depending on what they're playing, will call if they see flankers and things like that.
Awesome. Deadly, you got any questions before we get into it?
Nope. I think you covered it pretty good. Cool to get into Ana VOD. Finally, yeah. I enjoy coaching Ana.
Oh, yay.
She's a really cool character. Very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Too much mechanical skill for me.
Oh, well, I mean, don't pay too much attention to my aim.
I think she's the hero that I actually have the most playtime on, all modes. Yeah, she is technically the most that I've played all time, but doesn't mean I'm good.
I mean, same. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, going in real aggressive there. So if you are going for an aggressive nade like that, we'll just kind of jump into the more tactics right at the start. Especially since we were just doing... Were you watching any of the Reinhardt 1v1s at the very start?
Yeah.
So,
I had it up.
So Reinhardt's, when they do want to engage, and it might not happen in Plat, but usually when Reinhardt's want to engage, they don't just want to kind of do one swing and then shield up unless they are playing around a corner or something like that. Usually they're going to want to swing Fire Strike swing or swing Fire Strike or some sort of combination of that. And Fire Strike is also going to be really quite a large duration. So if you are trying to get an anti, it is best to try and wait for that Reinhardt to actually engage instead of walking through the shield, because you can't just hard shield forever, especially if your Reinhardt's going into him. So at higher elos, Reinhardt's will try and specifically bait out an Ana nade by looking like they're gonna swing and then just shielding immediately. But until that until Reinhardt's actually start giga braining you like that, if you see them swinging, you can assume that they're actually gonna go for that swing and just nade them at that point in time.
Okay.
Really aggressive nade, really aggressive sleep.
Yeah. I throw out my cooldowns a lot on this.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is about Ana, but it's an extremely common problem with Ana players is that they go for low percentage chance of success plays with both of their cooldowns, right? So it's in this position, right? You tried to go and sleep this Reinhardt, but like even if you hit this sleep, what was it actually going
No
to change?
follow-up,
Like, there's no
yeah.
follow-up, right? You know, maybe your Zarya is going to be able to like left click him until he wakes up and he's going to hard shield again or something. But at the same time, right, you are getting attacked by a Lucio. You know, it happens a second later. So it's not like you knew that this Lucio was right here, right at the start, but like, you know, you're immediately going to get punished or at least threatened because you wasted your sleep dart on the Reinhardt. You know, this Lucio doesn't have, he's not even being threatened by the potential of that sleep dart being used on him. So are you
Right.
going to die to this?
I get out.
No,
I still had
yourself,
nade.
right?
Yeah.
But that Lucio's only able to kind of commit this hard because you use sleep. Oh, and you know, because you're retreating, the Hanzo lands a shot on you, right?
Yeah.
So that it's like you're gonna have a low % chance of success and a low impact, even if you do succeed, if you're using sleep darts like that.
Okay.
Whereas like you want to save it for higher chance of actually succeeding with your sleep dart, like sleeping a Lucio that's literally in melee range of you. And then if you sleep that, you have high impact because he's probably going to die if you
Right.
land that sleep. So you don't want to be kind of too rushed with trying to get value, a tiny little value right away. It's okay to kind of wait for these high impact and high chance of success plays. Only when you're like really far behind, you want to go for like low chance of success, but high impact. These kind of like, you know, low chance of success and low impact plays, especially as it relates to cooldowns or on Ana. Those are like Hail Marys, right? It's like, yeah, I got nothing else I can do, but I have to do something, right? But like you have no expectations of those things succeeding. And just like it is with Roadhog Hook, it's the, you know, sometimes just the apparently I just took a screenshot. The threat of the sleep dart or the anti-nade is sometimes you know, more impactful than actually using it. So
Okay.
so that's just a few things to get out of the way just right off the start. Anything from you, Deadly, so far?
Yeah. Do you mind going to right when they dropped into the stairwell at the beginning and
Right
first like kind of used the cooldowns? Yeah. So yeah, I just think like you said, a lot of times Ana players will use their cooldowns with a low percentage chance of success. So I mean, I just want to talk about like when or what could you possibly have used your like nade for differently. Okay, so for example, like when you use the nade here, right? Let's just watch till the nade is thrown. Yeah, right? Okay. So we talk about like low chance of success. Like what's best case scenario here if this nade lands?
The Rhine is maybe purple if I had waited for the Zarya to bubble.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise it's most likely it's just gonna give my team like the heal boost, which we're all pretty much full HP anyways.
Were you aiming this at your team? It looked like you were aiming it at the Hanzo.
Oh no, I was trying to get it like behind the Rhine.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. Yeah. And so like I think in general, right? You're not going to be able to get a anti-nade out of this like little room.
Right.
So like if you pause, like if you want to go for an aggressive anti-nade, right? You could tell your team you're going to look for one, and yeah, Jayne already
Wrap
knows exactly what I'm
around.
going to do. Yeah. Knows exactly what I'm saying. And you could look for here, and then your team could push out, and then you have healing line of sight there. Otherwise, how else could you have used your nade in this situation that for potentially to get value? If you wanted to use it.
Honestly don't know. Wait until
Yeah,
we engage.
just wait until your Reinhardt is like kind of engaging and pushing into their Rein, and then you can just throw it at him to keep him, give the healing boost, and potentially anti-nade their Rein. Because like just with the way the position is set up, right, you're not going to be able to get a nade on the back line, and even if you do sneak one through, like Jayne said, there's not really going to be any chance of follow up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then we can go ahead and keep going now, Jayne.
This is, yeah, it's like even if you don't like know that there's anything that you can use the cooldown for at that moment, right? You know, especially, you know, if it's like if you had 2 nades during a fight, right? You know, you would always be able to find an opportunity to use them. Or if a Zarya had 2 projected bubbles, you'd always find an opportunity, right? So if you don't find an opportunity to use it right away, I mean, the cooldown is 10 seconds. It's like you can assume that either an opportunity is going to present itself in the near future, or you could find some way within the next 10 seconds if you were proactively searching for an opportunity, like a proactive play during those 10 seconds to use that. So don't feel like you have to use a nade, and if there's no good way to use your nade, just don't. You know, especially like when a lot of teams, especially lower ranked teams, will just like kind of yeet cooldowns out all like this very early in the fight. If you can save it for later and then have it be impactful, that can kind of give you a huge advantage. So big patience on cooldowns is going to be important.
Yeah. At that point, I made that rotation late because I was trying to see if I could get the angle to heal our Reinhardt. But at that point, he was already wrapping back around, so it's just unlucky.
Yep.
Unlucky timing there.
All right, fight 2.
And our call was to just go aggro with Nano here.
Onto the Kree?
Oh.
Not onto the Kree.
So onto who, I guess, is the question.
It was meant to go onto the Reinhardt.
Okay. Now, plans like this this is a pretty classic Plat thing, especially it's very, very classic for Plat teams as well. It's like, you know, our plan is to nano the Reinhardt, or our plan is to grab Dragon or something like that. But that becomes the way that you just start the fight, is you start the fight with that and hope that that's going to win the fight. It becomes this kind of like caricature of a fight. If you're dealing with like the full-on, you know, the way that a team fight unfolds from positioning, posturing, engaging, fighting, you know, stabilizing or cleaning or anything like that, it's like the point in time where the nanoing of the Reinhardt actually should be happening is really actually quite late into a team fight when it is unfolding, right? Because you want to get cooldowns out, and you can kind of think of it like this almost like tiered system, where it's like you want to be using your positioning, which is free, and then your like renewable resources, which is like shooting, because you can always reload, you can always renew those, or like exo boots, you can always charge those up and jump. And you want to be using you know, your positioning so that you can use your renewable resources to force people to use cooldowns. And then, you know, if they use cooldowns, you use cooldowns, and if they use ultimate, you use ultimate. So you want to kind of get these progressions out, but you don't want to get to the point where a person can use a cooldown to shut down your ultimates. So you kind of have to go through the stage of getting these resources out. You got to position yourself, and then once you're positioned, you want to posture through spam into the point where both teams are going to trade their cooldowns out. And once those cooldowns are out, you know, especially if you're Rein, like let's say at the end of a posturing or an initial engagement, both Reinhardts are out of armor. They've both taken 300 HP. It's at that point you nano the Reinhardt so that he can keep engaging and preventing the enemy Reinhardt from having a stabilization. You can just like roll over them. However, if you're kind of like, if you try and initiate a fight before the posturing stage is even complete, then the opponent can just, you know, position farther away, delaying that fight, which wastes the time of the nano. And then if the fight starts, then the Zarya can also just like bubble, or their Ana can anti-nade your Reinhardt or buff theirs. But if you can get to the point where you like nano after bubbles have been used, after nades have been used, after flash have been used, after these things, then there's nothing stopping the Reinhardt from just like cleaning up. So
so just squeeze it longer.
Yeah. So like you always kind of want to be forcing people to use more and more higher value resources, you know, positioning, renewable resources, cooldowns, ultimates, in that order. So when you're talking about like planning, when you're a platinum level team or something, right? If you say the plan is to nano Rein, right? That means that the terminal plan is to nano Reinhardt, but you still need to do all of the steps in between there before you can get to the point where you're nanoing Reinhardt. And the way that your team should be playing is with the assumption that you want to kind of position in a way that is going to make the nanoing the Reinhardt eventually more valuable. You are wanting to posture to force people to, you know, get the bubbles out so that the nano can be more impactful. You want to be pressuring the Ana so that she has to use nade on herself and can't anti your Reinhardt. It's like, you know, that the terminal plan of nanoing the Reinhardt affects how the cooldown part of the fight works, the renewable resource, like the posturing part of the fight works. It affects how you're positioning, all of these things with the ultimate goal of nanoing the Reinhardt. But if you're just starting a fight with nano Reinhardt and the opponent has all of their resources available to counter it, it's not going to be impactful pretty much at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
If I could tack onto that too, that's also why using like a nano to save someone is generally really impactful.
Hugely.
Because they have just committed a bunch of resources generally into that character, right? Say your Zarya is really low. They've committed, okay, maybe they're right. I don't know. they've used like nade already, they've used sleep. McCree's already used flashbang, and he's like inting into the Zarya to try and kill her with Fan the Hammer, and all of a sudden you boost them up to full HP with double damage and taking half the damage, and they've just committed all their resources, so they have nothing left, and now your Zarya is like gonna roll them over. So what Jayne is saying is absolutely correct, but you can also use Nano to force out those cooldowns if you have a plan on following up after the Nano. But he's completely true. If you just go in with Nano, they're going to be able to sponge the engage like 99% of the time if they have bubbles and nade and sleep and wall and flashbang and a full HP Rein. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, you have to have a plan after.
Like a follow up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything I don't want to add too many kind of addendums onto this point, but
for sure. Yeah.
Make a flow chart.
Yeah, you can also think about it like, one of the reasons why the saving people with Nano Boost is so effective is you can think of it like a Genji, for example. A Genji who gets a reset off of a dash, right? If he dashes in, he is committed to try and kill somebody, and if he doesn't get that kill, he can't get out. But it doesn't have to be with cooldowns, right? It can also be like we were talking about positioning, posturing, cooldown usage, and all that sort of stuff. Like, people can aggressively position, like they have made the position, or they have made the decision to aggressive more position. Oh my god. They have made the decision to aggressive. I give up.
Yes.
To position aggressively. They made the decision to position
on the
aggressively.
assumption that they are going to get the kill.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So you
then boom, Nano.
Doing that means that they they're done. So right. So you nanoed, and in this time, they are more easily able to shut that down with grabbing Blizzard in this case. Or it's your Blizzard. I was like, wait, what?
It's smoothie.
All right, well, it worked.
Okay.
But
yeah, there's a lot there.
We
lot
only
going
used
on.
all of our ult except grab. It's fine.
All right, so I want to see Triage's graph because Triage is on your team.
Yeah.
Aggressive, more position. Exactly, chat. You know what I meant.
Should be the title of this. Aggressive, more position.
Sometimes you don't think it'd be like it do, but it is.
Oh.
Let's see how this grab gets used. So there's good. That's the cooldowns being used. You saw the walls out, the bubbles are out at this point. Also, the nade is out, right? The Ana's nade is out. At this point in time, this is where a great idea, like a great example. Cooldowns have been used. Now, bubbles and nades are not going to be available to save them in the grab. So, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So, right, you don't want to have your ultimate countered with cooldowns. They had to counter your ultimate with a high noon and a hammer. So you used one ultimate here. They used two ultimates to defend. Even though your grab didn't work, that was a positive trade. And then, yep, they try and counter push with. Oh! And it's too bad that your Rhine didn't back off a little bit, but so if we're talking about this from like a more meta perspective, so let's kind of there's a couple different ways. There's probably like three of the introductory mental models that I usually kind of talk about Overwatch to introduce people to. You're gonna have like the risk reward model where there's kind of like there's never gonna be a correct play. There's a play that has a good % chance of succeeding and a good kind of % chance of giving you value, right? But there's nothing that's like there's not a 100% correct, 100% wrong option. You can do entirely the correct thing, probabilistically, and still fail just because the opponent clutched something else or something was just legitimately unlucky for you. So that's kind of one way of looking at it. You can also kind of like view it from a RTS version where it's like each play is kind of like, moves on a chessboard or something like this. But in this VOD, kind of let's take it from the perspective of more of like progressively higher and higher tiers of resources, right? So if we're going to be talking about that, is that we've got this really nice trade. There's the trade of cooldowns, and then you're taking things to the next step. Because, like, you used cooldowns. Well, initially, actually, you used your positioning to get onto this high ground, to force them back. That gave you an advantage, so that you had an advantage in the posture. And the advantage in the posture caused them to have to use their bubbles and their nades to stay in their fight. And once those cooldowns are out, you are pushing things to the next level of resources, which is ultimates. So you use an ultimate, they counter with 2 ultimates, you lose 1, but you're not out of it yet here, right? And they're all really, really low. And then exactly like Deadly was talking about, using the nano for defense, there's this nano here. But this is defensive here. At this point in time, this is where, like, basically, if you're not going to be engaging and consistently fighting, you want to stabilize and reset and wait for the next set of cooldowns. So a lot of the really, really impactful cooldowns are somewhere in kind of like the 8 to 12 second range. You know, like Fire Strike is 8, the nade is 10, personal bubble is 10, projected bubble is 8, wall is 10 or 12. Like, a lot of these like really, really impactful ultimates are all in the range of 8 to 12 seconds, which means that kind of sets the tempo for how rapidly you engage. And what you should do in this situation with them using nano, this previously, before this nano was used, you had the advantage and you could keep pressing, right? They had to nano to save, but you don't want to get into the trap that Deadly was talking about overcommitting, because then they're going to give this nano value. So the way that you're going to be shutting down, it's almost like a loop, right? The way you shut down the highest tiers of ultimates, other than using your ultimates as well, is just positioning more safely and making sure that they're just like punching air and getting no value here. So you use this nade, try and counter push, and this I would think would be a little bit of an overcommitment, where if you did have that nano, if you had gone back, reset, get to a point where maybe the Reinhardt overcommits with the nano, then you could counter push with not only your Reinhardt's hammer, but also the rest of your cooldowns as well. So if you don't find a situation where you can continue to pressure and continue to maintain that advantage, like if by continuing to fight and press or continue to exert pressure, you're losing your advantage, you should try and stabilize, wait for those cooldowns to come back, and then re-engage.
Okay.
Yeah, but like up to that point where the macro, the strategic level mistake for your team at this level was like continuing to fight after they nanoed to stabilize, really.
Okay.
You allowed that to get value by continuing to fight into a disadvantage. And this is something that happens quite a lot at Platinum, is like, I think that it's really quite frequent that an opponent will use like a Moira Coalescence or a BAP window, and then the other team will actually like try and play fast into it. You're like, oh, we gotta be play fast because they've got more damage, right? It's like, the correct answer is just stop.
Just wait.
Just wait. And then go in, because that's one fewer resource that they have, right? So, and then especially since we're talking about 2CP, if you're talking about this like progressive trading or bargaining of resources, this is also going to be where ult economy starts coming in, right? Because if you can force the fight to happen where you have ultimates and they have nothing to respond with, boom, you just win, right? Because they don't have the tools in their toolkit to respond to your play. But let's look at your nano then in this context.
Go.
So step 1 is going to be positioning, right? So they are positioned in a way that gives them an advantage. So you're going to have to deal with this positioning first. And you can use that cooldown to take this positioning, but then after that, you'd want to wait for the cooldown to come up before you take the next step and move forward. All right, so they're already kind of backing off. You taking this high ground together. Oh no, you're poor Zarya.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he called that.
All right, so you used Fire Strike and all these different things, right? So you'll want to wait, which you're doing. This is fantastic. So on the next set of cooldowns, right? So posturing is done. Let's move into the engagement start. Like early bubble, they still have their bubbles. And they use their anti as well, right? So this is like both teams got to the point where it was like the exchange of cooldowns, and they won this exchange of cooldowns. Now their mistake here is that they won it at the cooldown phase, but still pushed it into the ultimate phase. So as long as you don't counter ult here, this is actually a big win. It would have been.
Oh, I dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was gonna nitpick, like, because triage is your friend, right?
Yes, yeah.
for Zarya too. So specifically, just bubble tip, right, is for bubbling. You want it to be when you've engaged with the target, not before. So like in this example, he's like bubbling the Rhine in and bubbling themselves in, and so like there's the bubble on the Rhine, doesn't get full value. There's the bubble on themselves, doesn't get full value. If you wait like maybe two more seconds, definitely would have gotten a whole lot more. I don't know if it would have saved them in the grav, but
I'm not sure it would have saved them in the grav,
Yeah.
but like this, especially when you're like both teams in the very start of an engagement, like an initial engagement is a trade of cooldowns, right? But if you use this bubble this early, again, just to get him in before the Reinhardts have actually started swinging on each other, like he's going to have a disadvantage in the Reinhardt engagement. And as well, I mean, the ultimate thing that really shut you down is that 3 of your team got antied, right? And this Ana was a lot more free because not only was she knew she wasn't going to hit a bubble, but knew that you didn't have the bubbles to cleanse them off. So this is like, you know, what Deadly is saying is that the reason that this engagement went poorly is because like those bubbles, you know, it's like bubbles, although they could counter anti, did not, and anti got value.
Okay.
Yep. But it's generally like, okay, and 2CP on the attacking team to go in, sort of do a sort of dry fight and get big ults like grab out. So then you guys can build your ult bank and go in with more is generally the way, the plan. That's just how 2CP is done.
Yeah.
Even up to the highest level, it's generally trading ultimates is not going to get the job done. You've got to have more on the attacking team.
Yep. So in order to do that, right, if you can be really aggressive and with cooldowns and win the engagement at the cooldown stage, then the opponent is going to have to use ultimates to defend with, right? And you can either do that just to get some of their ultimates out, and then the next fight just go in with an overwhelming advantage that even if they used everything in defense, it's not going to matter. Or get it where they have none, and the 1 or 2 that you have in the next fight are going to be enough to win. But in order to do that, you also have to be really, really clean about not feeding unnecessary ult charge during stabilization or cleanup. Or so, you know, if you are going to be doing quote unquote a dry fight, the fight has to be like very, very distinct and nobody kind of, you know, not unnecessary healing, disengaging, or like throwing yourself really early. And it can be challenging to try and do dry fights if you are having kind of more extended fights with the time to kill being quite extended.
Get in there. You're going to be okay.
Step rider.
And this should be a W. Awesome.
I'm just gonna nitpick too.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
that was excellent. And the beginning of the fight, you started off as like really excellent use. Just kind of keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then up to the nano. Nano was good, fine, kind of engage. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. All right, where's the Ana at right now? Pause. Where's our Ana at? Kaden.
Behind the
Really
crates.
excellent, really good, excellent use of like natural cover, and this is where I want you to stay. So you guys win, which is good, but the 2 most important things for a 2CP kind of overtime, do you know what those are?
Keeping supports alive so I can keep my team alive.
Yep. Number 1 is support alive, so you can keep the tanks on the point. Number 2 is like the consistent damage, so like the McCree. So you and the McCree should be positioned sort of back here and just like you healing everyone as the other team is coming in, and this McCree shooting everyone as the other people are coming in. There's a big mistake where a lot of people feel like they have to like get on, like the supports and the DPS feel like they have to get on the point, but that's not the case. It's like the tanks and then like the DPS like May or a Reaper or something. They want to be on the point. But you are really, really, really important. So you really just want to watch your positioning in these kinds of situations.
Okay.
You never know when a Doomfist is going to come punching in or a Reinhardt's going to be charging from spawn.
Right.
So yeah, just a nitpick, but something that you'll want to watch. Same for your Mountain Fall McCree here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that mistake bites me if I remember right on the defense. So
Okay.
just wait.
you have any questions so far?
No, not so far. Everything's been pretty clear.
Awesome. All right, let's see where you position on the defense here.
I have your back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
All right, just all on the ground. Got it.
Never know if I should, like, sometimes I'll take high ground depending on what we're running, but since we didn't have like a super like bunkery high ground type comp or anything, I just played low ground by the mega ish.
Did you notice that nade there again? I'm just curious. Kaden.
The one that I yeeted at
Yeah, the one
shield.
you needed at the Reinhardt shield.
yeah, that one. A little bit.
Okay. How
Yeah.
how else could you have better used that?
Tried if I would have been up high ground, I would have been able to throw it over the shield potentially. Or just waited until we had more of an engage.
Yeah.
Because right now, even if he drops shield, the only people that can really do anything is maybe some like lucky Junkrat spam and some Zarya
Yeah.
right clicks. But
Yeah. Even if you
Yeah.
hit the nade, right, your team has to cross that entire open space to get to them.
yeah,
So even if you hit it right, it's just like a little extra damage. So in this
it's a bad
situation,
time.
yeah, if you want to use it, like you could use it because your Junkrat got really low and stuff. You can use it to like keep everyone alive. And then your next nade, once they get around the corner, you can play, a little more aggressive or however, to try and get an anti-nade if you want to go for that. But
And this is a situation where you're going to have a little bit of judgment, because it's okay to use the nade in these situations if you either know or that you're confident that the fight's not going to happen in the next 10 seconds, right? Because your nade has 10 seconds. So
exactly.
if you're safe that you know that you don't need to use it for yourself, like nobody's going to spam you out. They have a Pharah, so that means it's like, yeah. It's like the Pharah just have to have one rocket before suddenly I'm really in risk of danger. But it's like if you know, or you are either extremely confident that you're not going to use the nade for the 10 seconds, you can do this just to piss them off, put them in risk of dying. Like maybe your Ashe is able to find a shot on somebody that kills them. And it's like if the Reinhardt is standing close to a wall, you can just splash the wall behind him because it is actually like quite a large AoE splash. But using it is dangerous if you're under any threat, because even if you weren't under threat before you were using it, right? If I'm the Pharah and I see a nade like this, I'm like, oh, squishy. And even if I wasn't planning to go for you before, now I am. So so very dangerous in that regard. And then just in general, right? Anytime that you are going to be, if the position that you want to stay in or are thinking is good, like even if you think that this positioning is the best, right? Gravity's free. Start here, because if you're like, no, this one does suck, I like this one better, you can just jump out the window. But you can't levitate your ass back up into windows. So gravity's free.
Yeah.
Start on high grounds, even if you don't think it's good, start there anyway. And if you don't find any opportunities, or you see an opportunity require you on the ground, take the gravity elevator. So, like, the fight happened about 7 seconds after you used the nade, so not the worst thing in the world. And this is a situation, right, where if the Reinhardt sees this, your Rein's antied, his is heal buffed. If you use this nade the other way to turn things around, it doesn't work out that way. But that was going to be a situation where you could have counter pushed if you not only heal buffed your Rein, but also antied their Reinhardt. So. Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah.
You dead. You
Yeah.
dead.
I wanted to move up top so we could sort of like soft reset, but I made the call too late for Crispy to act on it, and he just sort of got boxed in. And
What
it was
is
a bad
going on in
time.
chat right now? All right, here we go.
Good setup. Good.
I have your back.
All right, so there's your team's W's. This is where you just back.
Okay.
Don't fight through this.
Could we pause for 1 second
Yeah,
too?
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, obviously your team's looking in bad, but this is a good nade.
Great nade.
I like to, when you're playing Ana in these positions, it's really important to like also like consider if there are any threats to kill you right here. Is there any threat on their team right now that you just need to watch out for?
Genji could flank, and possibly Hanzo.
Yeah, the number one I'm looking at is Hanzo. Genji you'll probably see coming, but you're not going to see a log flying through the air immediately. So you like that's the only threat to you on holding this high ground position. So like positioning yourself away from when he's spamming certain angles is definitely something you want to look out for. Just like whenever I take like a high ground position on Ana, it's generally really good to like think about, is there anything that can punish me for playing on this open high ground? And in this case, it's just the Hanzo. So definitely a good practice to get into on any map, any situation. But yeah, teams are looking like this is going to be rough here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to fight through a VAP window.
I ended up losing Nano there because I tried to Nano our Ryan to keep him alive, but
he died.
He like, yeah, he like insta deleted. So
it's always unfortunate when that happens.
Yeah.
Do you have a nade here? Oh, it's in 2 seconds.
I'm about to use it on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially when you've got the nade, right? If you want to be healing your Reinhardt, in order, this is sort of the things where you're in plat. This is the like on, especially when there's Reinhardts fighting. You got to try and make sure that it's not just about healing your Reinhardt, that it's also antiing the enemy Reinhardt, because that's going to be like anti is the part of Ana's kit that wins fights, probably even more so reliably than Nano does. So,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's like it's you know, if you have to use it to heal your teammate, use it to heal your teammate, but try to heal a teammate and anti whoever is on them. You know, in the same way that like nanoing friendly to save them can be a little bit of a bait, so can nading them. You know, it's nading is going to keep them up and damage. It's like it flips the health differential by 160 if you hit your team and whoever's fighting at the same time. So I'd like to see more kind of care going into those sorts of plays. Nice heal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, gave up that high ground.
Yep. That was good. Almost got Nano. There you go. Again, probably would have waited just the like you're not really in rush. He wasn't in any risk of dying. So if you got into a situation where you know, like wait for somebody to be baited by that Reinhardt. Wait for the enemy Reinhardt to overcommit. Just like the second that it takes to overcommit is really, really worth it on Ana.
Okay.
Like, let's get to that situation. Up, big heals, right? So he's antied, right? And he's got a bit of a distance on him here, and then I think you nano him here. Yeah, so see the gap between them? Your nano is going to last longer, right? But if you were kind of waiting, because Captain's going to want to go in, but now he's a little bit more hesitant, and instead he's going to hammer your nano, right? So waiting until a moment where you can bait somebody into overcommitting and then turn, where the opponent can't stabilize, they can't avoid it just with their positioning, is going to be like really, really key to make sure that, because I mean, just like Zen, right? Zen is the clearest cut example of that, where if there's two people fighting, you harmony your guy, discord the other guy. Now, even if your guy sucks, he's got an advantage, right? He's getting healed, and the shots that he does hit are going to impact, like they're going to matter more, right? So this, like, you know, you're not playing like a heal bot, but you know, when I'm working with like a lot of gold supports kind of play as if they're a mobile like health pack. Like, I'll heal you so you don't have to use health packs.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, your real, like, ultimately your job and the way that you win as a support is by like tipping the scales in your favor everywhere. It's like whenever the Reinhardts engage, you know, even if the enemy Reinhardt is better, your impact on that duel is what's giving your Reinhardt a better chance of winning. You know, it's the same way. It's like, you know, how do Mercies be impactful just with their healing? They don't, right? They're the ones who, through damage boost, tip duels in the DPS that you're pocketing in their favor. Or if somebody loses a duel, right, you just res them back up, right? So it's like, if even if it's a coin flip, like if you've got two Widows that are dueling, and it's a 50% chance of winning, right? Just res them. Suddenly they've got like a 75% chance of winning the duel if they've got 2 lives. So it's like, that's really how you need to affect it. And, you're going to give your Rein more chance of succeeding by healing him, but you're going to give him a dramatically higher chance of succeeding, not just using these things just to stay alive or just to prevent eliminations, but also to secure them ultimately.
I usually try to play for more antis, but I couldn't find the angles in this one. And then they just had so much damage, I was just panic nading a lot. And then I walk onto the point.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to come down to positioning. Like, put yourself in a position where it's easy for those things to occur.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'll rest when the fighting's done.
At this point, I'm realizing I should have swapped like Moira to try and get there half a second early, but
Yeah. That's a small
don't know
thing.
how much that would have mattered at that point.
Yeah, for sure. It's a small thing.
Score 2 to 2. Switching sides.
All right.
Attackers
So now you're playing,
defend
Rein Diva. All right.
You're covered.
Diva's eating the fire strikes. That's good.
Scratch, you'll be fine.
Oh, you almost got that sleep. Is there anything that stuck out to you, Deadly, you wanted to talk about? Or just watch the next one?
seconds remaining.
No, not really there. No. Pretty decent. Try and keep on rolling so we can get this one finished. This map at least. Once again, the timing there on the nano, right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
gonna
also
hurt.
got the wrong person again.
Yeah, one, you got the wrong person. Two, there
was
wasn't
too
really
early.
a fight going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
like everyone, we were kind of looking at each other now, and so when you nano, the break is like, oh, I gotta run at them, and then they're just like, we're gonna press S.
And then just
Yeah.
high noon, right?
Yeah.
10 seconds remaining.
Diva's gonna go for touch.
Overtime.
So just in general for triage, whenever triage looks at this, so in order to trigger overtime, you only need to touch 3 seconds before. You don't need to be on it for overtime. So if you touch it 2.7 seconds left and then get off and nobody touches for the remaining time, it will trigger overtime. So it's better for divas to just cross through the contest and then immediately get out.
Okay.
Because you'll trigger overtime and then overtime will start counting down. So you can have like a good solid 4 or 5 seconds before the Reinhardt needs to touch. You don't need to be on the point to trigger overtime. It's 3 seconds before to touch and trigger.
Okay.
So triage kind of goes in, touches, but like stays on it to get overtime, and that caused them to feed too much HP there. Yeah, there's a lot of like weird mechanics for that matter for overtime contests and stallings and things like that. So I think that I can actually show an example of that. Yeah, okay, so here's an example of it. Is at this point I'm the one on Diva who has to trigger overtime. And then so it's each tick of percentage point. You might think it's a second, but it's actually 1.2 seconds. I don't know why it's not perfectly 1 second. It's 1.2 seconds. But then you can kind of see it where in order to get the contest here, right? I boost, I see the contest, and then I immediately 180, and I'm off the point by the time it goes to 99%, but I drop back down, and there's nobody on the point but overtime triggers. So you can get you can touch, and I didn't even touch the point. I just like flew in for the contest and whoop, right back out. But yeah, so you can't, if you get off before it touches 97 or just as it touches 97, technically it's like that could be 3.6 seconds. But as long as you touch either later into the 97th percent, or if it says 98, you can get off and overtime will still trigger. So probably because they wanted 100% to be exactly 2 minutes. Yeah, probably. But yeah, so that's just kind of like showing an example where this could be really important because you just need to get the contest, but then a couple seconds is going to allow you to actually get to the point and fight, get an extra team fight. That's really the point. You don't want to be trickling. You don't want to be staggering. Like if I had actually kind of stayed on the point, I would have fed, and then it wouldn't have gone very well. I don't remember if we actually win this fight or not, but that's really all you need to get to the contest. Deadly just shit posting in chat.
I'm sorry, no,
No, not sorry. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You got it.
I'm
trying to keep him entertained.
What was I saying? It was bad. Shit posting is a good thing. Let's not mix words. Shit posting is good and encouraged. No, Drew. Was that your call, Drury? How you doing, Yako? Good to see you. I was saying, so in situations where you know you are going to nano Rein or Genji, you can set up the confirm before. Oh, you're talking about that's going to be a personal preference. We don't usually focus on kind of things about person preference, but they did introduce the game the ability to do nano boost sensitivity or something like that. And I was talking to Guru about it, and some of the higher level players. Or which one was it? Or he uses it for bubble confirmation, right?
Yeah, it's confirmation too. So there's sensitivity and confirmation where you have
so
to,
Ana has, like Zarya doesn't have confirmation, but Ana has nano boost. Nano boost sensitivity. So you can like decrease the nano boost sensitivity, so you're not just like in the general area where it's like if you're looking at somebody, it's going to be that person. So if you are trying to go for a lot of these nanos, where there's like a ton of people up close, you can decrease your nano boost sensitivity, or before the fight goes in, you can just put it on Reinhardt and then activate it as confirmation later on. But in general, if there's like a whole bunch of people together and you're trying to nano boost one person, generally that's just going to mean that you're like the execution is probably sloppy anyway. And there's probably better ways to just change the way you're playing rather than trying to specifically nano one person in a cluster of like 4 or 5. So, they've been adding it to a lot of heroes.
Yeah, I don't usually flub my nanos as much as I did in this match. Like, it's honestly not an issue. This match was just kind of
Jayne, did y'all comment about Ana rotating close to tank line? Yeah, so it's like, you do have to stay as Ana close to your tank line when you're rotating. You don't want to rotate separately. But as soon as the rotation or transition is completed to one side, that's where you expand back out and stay in safer positions. All right. Hey, we're on the high ground. Nice.
Yeah.
Go champ.
Pog champ.
Right. I did it.
Really early nade. Is the fight going to happen in the next 10 seconds? Yes. Was your nade going to get an elimination that prevented that engagement from happening? No. Good nade question mark? Answer also no. Want to say, so you've seen the enemy Reinhardt having bubble here. As soon as you see the Reinhardt swinging without bubble, because most Reinhardts when they get bubble, they're going to try and swing during the duration of bubble, then back off, then maybe go for a second one, right? So, did it! Hey! Oh no, your Reinhardt charged out. No!
Yeah.
You did it.
Oh, that's actually painful.
That's actually brutal though.
You just had to swing.
Because you did it perfectly. Also, audio cues. There's a tracer up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got her. You got her. Nice. Okay, so this is actually going really well for you. Good place.
He just presses shift. Okay. All right.
It's the crispy charges.
So how do you communicate your nanos?
In actual comp games, I usually just tell him I have nano and to ask him to call when he's ready for it.
So in this situation,
I just say yeet.
Like there's In pugs, I just go yeet. Very relatable. Not very competitive. But yeah, so in this situation, like you can just tell Crispy, like, fight him, I'll nano you, right?
Yeah.
Because like there is that reaction where you do want to catch a Reinhardt off guard, where Reinhardt fights are really weird. But because shielding slows you down, and because Reinhardts are almost always going to be doing fighting retreats, and Reinhardts, even if the opponent turned and ran away doing like a full retreat, the attacking Reinhardt can use like the camera turning in order to get extra range. Reinhardt duels are in a way that if either Reinhardt wants the fight to continue, the fight will continue. Or you can't kite another Reinhardt as a Reinhardt, right? So you want to get into the Reinhardt to get into a position where he doesn't have to close that distance. That distance is already it's basically their models are touching, and at that point you nano, because then the enemy Reinhardt cannot escape. Especially if the Reinhardt is staying committed, trying to get the kill, or if your Reinhardt is baiting them in, trying to get them as far away from the nearest cover or corner before that nano. You can just like tell your Ryan, give him the confidence to fight and like ride that edge a little bit closer, knowing that he's going to get that nano. Yeah, so it's like there's a lot of situations where you're using nano correctly. We definitely need to polish up the nade usage, but the nano, it's like if we're gonna like really push it to optimal, you want to be thinking a lot more of these like baits and counter pushes as kind of like the real what is determining the exact timing of the nades and the nano boosts.
Yeah, and I would say if your Rhine didn't charge here, that their Rhine was like kind of committed and would have been able to kill him. Okay, then he redeemed himself as a shatter, presses
Fire
W
strikes.
into them and dives.
No!
Nade.
Nade. Yeah.
We'll shame you every time.
I don't know why you haven't
that.
immediately started implementing the coaching that we've given you through VOD format. Why have you not already started to nade differently, Caden?
My bad.
I will keep you here.
Big.
This is going to hurt.
I like that off angle you took there to get that nade in.
Yeah.
That's how I play on it. That's how I play on it. I just go on weird angles and get
Yeah.
like these ridiculous nades.
Especially if they don't see you, man. Those nades
Yeah.
and sleeps on off angles are huge. Probably
But
a little bit of
it was
a
also
higher
safe.
risk playstyle that I'd recommend you trying out.
Yeah. But the way that you did it was perfectly fine. You were in a safe spot. You were able to take that angle and not overextend. So definitely good. If you can find situations like that, definitely go for it.
How do you know when to drop off of high ground? When staying on the high ground is riskier than being on the low ground.
Nade.
Nade.
Again.
Sleep.
Sleep.
Just a scratch.
Yeah, sleep.
Bubbles. Yeah, nade.
Nade.
I need healing. You're going to be okay.
Good rotation, actually, if they're coming to that high ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone.
Really good.
I don't remember who called it, but someone said they were rotating up there, so we booked it.
Go.
And normally I would say that your healing priority here was a little bit strange, but the only reason that it made sense is because you had the Baptiste who could be healing the tanks, but normally if
Yeah.
you're playing like a Zen, a Lucio, a Mercy or something like that, like your job is to just like stick on the tanks and help them.
Right.
So in this case, I'm not sure if that's how you would have done it normally if you had kind of a more of like an off support or flex support
Yeah.
player, but it felt strange watching it, but it made sense because your other healer's a BAP who does have higher tank priority healing than you do.
Yeah, I usually prioritize the tanks if I'm. Anytime basically it's not BAP.
Yeah,
Then
which
I
is
prioritize
really
the
good
tank.
recognition here. Oh, going, whoa. Please tell me you're going to sleep their shield. I want to see it.
Wait for it.
You're powered up. Get in there.
The nano.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
You good, Deadly?
I don't even.
My brain
was your
potato
plan?
really.
What was
What was your plan? Like,
I was gonna nano a Rhine alone on point, and then I was gonna sleep the ult and Cree through the mostly full Rhine shield. And
You know,
not
it wasn't a
die.
great plan, but it was a plan. I like it.
Go. I could be healed.
See why the angle you took though it was bad, right? Or not optimal, right?
Because
it's just
entire window and a stray thing kills me,
yeah, and it's
and
not
I can't
necessarily
see
even
any
the
of my
window.
team.
But once you push past this doorway, right? You're like committed. You can't get away.
Right.
Right? There's no natural cover. So if you're gonna play here, you have to play all the way back here. But if you're playing all the way back here in this doorway, you can see nobody.
Right.
And so the only way for you to see people is to push into a bad position or B, not see anybody and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So either A, play on the high ground, play in the back little room while there's the window, or drop to where Jayne is showing right there.
Right.
Like drop to this sort of angle. Are much better options than the far left thing. Also, I mean, you recognize that no one is on the point, so the nano on the Rhine doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I honestly don't know why. Like after I did this whole play, I remember
Uh-huh.
saying that was dumb. Like, oh,
Close.
Close.
Close. You know what? It wasn't a smart play, but it almost worked, so we'll give that one to you. There's that nade coming in. So this is also going to be a situation where it's like your tanks shouldn't be on this point. They shouldn't drop.
Yeah.
You're actually doing this the exact opposite way that this should work, right? It's like they're the ones who have to be on the point to contest, right? And if they're on the point, if we're talking about this, like, again, we'll move back to like this resource, right? Is that they have to be positioned on the point. But being positioned on the point means that in the posturing phase, they are losing more resources and will have to use cooldowns to stay on the point or have to use ultimates to stay on the point, and you can just bleed them out. It's not the greatest because, you know, you only got one tick, so they only need one tick. Or sorry, like they just need the one tick to win, so you don't have a lot of time to burn them down. But you dropping into the point puts you at a massive, massive disadvantage in the posturing, and that's kind of like, that should be the thing that they're doing because they are trying to capture the point. Oh, that creep.
Yep, exactly. So your Rhine and D.Va should have been postured back either on the high ground or behind the kind of cover there on the building, and then they obviously, until they touch the point, you just kind of chill there, right? Like, you don't need to force anything. They have to touch it.
And even when they are on the point, right, the D.Va can just like stay on a corner and like defense matrix and then just like step off, or the Reinhardt could like just be on a corner, but you could still have basically, like, you only need to have like one pinky toe on the point to be contesting them, where, you know, it's like if they're anywhere here, you can just be burning down their resources or anything like that. So this happens on a lot of maps where like the point itself is very, very risky and bleeds a lot of resource because there is no defensible territory anywhere near it. So like you being on it is the exact opposite of what you want to have. You want to play in a way that forces them onto it. Or if they just keep rotating around trying to chase you down, you just keep playing Ring Around the Rosie because it just burns time off the clock. So.
Okay.
Wow. Crispy, no. Oh,
That's pretty much.
Well, did you have any questions about this VOD?
No, I don't think so. You know, stop eating nades and nano a little bit later sometimes. Sleeps are questionable.
Yeah, and I think that, like, especially when you are starting to play as a team, because was it 5 or all 6 people in this lobby were people you're going to form a team with?
5 for sure. I'm not sure if Fear's joining us or not, or if he's just kind of gonna play with us occasionally off. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that, like, one of the ways that as you can kind of start thinking about, you know, I think that one of the, like, the really, really easiest kind of introductory mental models for Overwatch is just kind of like thinking about it as progressively more valuable resources. So it's like, how can you position to put yourself in, you know, to when you are fighting the opponent that they are just going to be losing more health, losing more shield charge over time. And then once you have that advantage, how do you continue that advantage with cooldowns, and how do you continue that advantage with ultimates in order to properly win the game? So yeah, that can be a really good way, because you can start thinking about, it's like, all right, you know, this fight started, and even before we start talking about ultimates, like, you know, did the opponent get more value out of their cooldowns, or did like we get more value out of our cooldowns? And if not, that can be kind of determining how, because it's sometimes, especially when you're talking about like team play, something might make sense for like a Zarya might, from her perspective, want to use that bubble to get energy or something, whereas she'll get her 40 energy, but somebody on your team will get antied or something like that. And that's something that you can have a discussion is like, what is more valuable on the macro side? And that can be one of the things that kind of drives the discussion about how should we be playing differently together as a plan from a strategic perspective, and how individually do you change your micro so that you get value, but you get value that is more important across the team, not just to your performance. So
Okay. Cool.
Deadly, do you have anything to add?
Nope, no, that sounds good to me.
Just chilling like a villain. I love it.
I'm just chilling.
All right, Caden. Well, send me a message tomorrow if you have any kind of questions or clarifications. And I know that Triage and Crispy weren't here today, but yeah, if they have any questions as well about the VOD, I'd be more than happy to kind of do a follow up. And yeah, so
Cool.
and good luck with forming the team. And I hope you enjoy the experience.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep, good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Have a great day,
Bye.
Caden.
You too.
Okay.